You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 286, Turning Betrayal into Brilliance, Lessons from Ariana Madix. Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, breakup coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, beautiful brave hearts. You know what has been on my mind lately? Something that has just popped back up in my brain. I watched these reality TV shows forever ago, but what has been popping up in my mind lately is the absolutely jaw-dropping transformation of Ariana Madix after her breakup with Tom Sandoval. Now, whether you've watched Vanderpump Rules or not, if you haven't and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to, do not listen to this episode. It will be a spoiler alert. But if you haven't watched it and you don't plan on watching it, you've probably seen headlines about one of the most public betrayals in reality TV history. I literally started from the beginning when I saw all of this pop up about this breakup. I didn't know who these people were. I didn't know what this show was, but I binge watched all of Vanderpump Rules to watch how the betrayal built, and it was absolutely insane and jaw-dropping. But it's just kind of popped back up into my head again recently, and I want to talk about it because what fascinates me isn't necessarily the scandal itself. I have seen that and then some, but it's actually what Ariana did after the scandal that is something that is very fascinating, obviously for me as a breakup coach, right? But let's be honest, okay? When you think about when your partner of 9 years cheats on you with someone you considered a friend and it all unfolds on national television, that's like really the kind of gutting heartbreak that sends people spiraling for like years. But what we witnessed is that instead, Ariana showed us all what's possible when you channel pain into power and heartbreak into happy. So today, I want to break down exactly how she did it, and more importantly, how you can create your post-breakup glow-up that leaves everyone, including your ex, wondering like, how the fuck did she do that, right? And I just want to say as a disclaimer, I want to mention I'm making all of these observations and arriving at these conclusions based off of the TV show that I saw her in, right? I have no idea what's going on in her mind or what happened behind the scenes. I definitely work with celebrities and influencers, different public personas. She is not one of those individuals that I have worked with, but I'm making these observations from the outside looking in based off of the TV show, right? So I have a lack of knowledge around what was happening behind closed doors. But just from what I witnessed through the TV show, there are many lessons that we can derive from her that I want all of you guys to see and to ask yourself if it's something that you might want to implement. Okay, so before the first thing we want to look at is I want to talk to you and I want to take you into the moments before the storm hit, before the betrayal hit, because what Ariana was doing before her breakup matters just as much as what she did afterwards, okay? When I look at Ariana before the betrayal, I see someone who was fully present in her relationship. She supported Tom's business ventures. She was considering freezing her eggs with his sperm despite having reservations about having children. She was the definition of like a ride or die, right? And here's what I find truly remarkable is she was secure enough to encourage Tom's friendship with Rachel. And she didn't operate from jealousy or suspicion. She trusted openly. Now, your brain might be screaming, see, that's what happens when you trust people, you get burned. But I don't actually think that's the lesson here. The beauty of how Ariana showed up is that she was all in, both feet in her relationship. She wasn't holding back parts of herself out of fear. She wasn't living with one foot out the door just in case. She was fully committed to creating love in the present moment. And you know what? That's something to admire and not regret. Because here's what I know for sure. Half loving doesn't protect you from pain. It just guarantees you'll never experience the full depth of connection while you have it. Now, when you look back at your relationship, wouldn't you rather know that you gave it everything, that you loved without reservation, that you were brave enough to be all in? The amount of pain you feel after a breakup isn't determined by how guarded you were during the relationship. I'm going to say it again. The amount of pain you feel after a breakup isn't determined by how guarded you were during the relationship. It's actually determined by the thoughts that you choose about what your breakup means, right? That's what I teach you throughout the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast. Thoughts create feelings, always and forever. And that brings us to what happened next. When Ariana discovered the truth of the betrayal, she did something that many of us struggled with. When she found out that Tom was cheating on her with Rachel, she held Tom accountable for his choices without taking responsibility for them. She didn't torture herself with questions like, what did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? How could I have prevented this? Instead, she drew a very clear line in the sand. His behavior belonged to him. She wasn't going to internalize his behavior as a reflection of her worth. Mic drop, right? Let's pause there. Because this is where most of us get stuck. When someone betrays our trust, our brains immediately look for ways we could have prevented it. We think if we could just figure out what we did wrong, we can prevent future pain. But here's the truth. You cannot control other people's choices, not their perfect behavior, not with perfect behavior, like your perfect behavior, and not with mind reading, and not with constantly monitoring their actions, right? That's what a lot of us who struggle with jealousy do. We think, if I can perfect my behavior, if I can mind read, or if I could constantly be monitoring their actions, I can prevent pain. But the moment Ariana decided not to take on Tom's behavior as her failure was the moment she freed herself to begin healing, in my mind. After the breakup, Ariana had another critical choice to make. Would she let her circumstance dictate her next moves, or would she decide what was best for her and make everything else conform to that? And she chose the latter, and it changed everything. It was so cool to see, right? Despite the awkwardness or the emotional strain, she decided staying in their shared home until things were properly settled was best for her financially, rather than rushing out at her own expense, right? She had an assistant to minimize interactions with Tom, or Tom had an assistant that I don't know who had the assistant. But someone did. Then she set clear boundaries about her living arrangement. She stood firm against pressures from producers and cast members to have conversations with him when she wasn't going to. She prioritized her long-term interests over her short-term comfort, and that is jaw-dropping and just beautiful and amazing to see. She didn't waffle between options or constantly question her decisions. She chose, she committed, and then made everything else work around that choice. And that is a beautiful example of what I mean when I'm telling you guys to decide, commit, and practice. This decisiveness is a superpower, especially after a breakup. When you're heartbroken, your brain craves relief, and it will tempt you to make impulsive decisions just to escape the discomfort. But Ariana showed up, and she showed us that there's another way to do it, right? Decide what's best for you. Maybe that's not what's easiest in the moment. Commit fully to that decision, and then arrange everything else to support that choice. Now, let's talk about what followed that, because this is where things truly got magical. After the breakup, Ariana then proceeded to have amazing things fall into her life. I say fall into her life. She created these amazing things. She landed a role on Broadway in Chicago. She launched a successful sandwich shop with Katie Maloney. She released a cocktail book that became a bestseller. She secured numerous brand partnerships and sponsorships. She started a new relationship with someone who openly adores her, and she radiated confidence and joy in every public appearance. And in other words, she didn't just recover from her breakup, right? She catapulted herself into a life that's objectively bigger and better than the one that she had before. Sound familiar, my friends? We're building lives that are bigger and better than the one that you had with your ex. right? It wasn't about revenge success. It's about using that energy of heartbreak as rocket fuel for transformation, for creation. When your relationship ends, especially one you are fully invested in, you suddenly have an enormous amount of energy that was previously directed toward your partner. And that energy doesn't just disappear, it needs to go somewhere. And Ariana channeled it into creating her life, her dream life. Not the life she thought she'd have with Tom, but something better. And maybe it was something entirely new and just fully hers. Okay? So how do we create our own Ariana level glow up or transformation, right? After breakup. And here are the steps that I felt like I watched her walk through that I think are so powerful that you could choose today. Number 1, be all in no matter where you are. When you're in a relationship, be fully present. When it ends, be fully committed to your healing and your growth. Half measures create half results. The beauty in not dividing yourself is that you bring your whole energy to whatever phase you're in. No regrets when you're in it and no backsliding when you're out of it. Number 2, don't make your ex's behavior about you. Your ex's choices are theirs alone. They don't define those actions, the things that they did have nothing to do with your worth, your lovability, or your future potential for happiness. And the moment you stop internalizing those behaviors as a reflection of your value is the moment that you reclaim your power. Power is a word here. It's important. Number 3, decide what's best for you and make everything else work around that. Stop letting external circumstances or voices dictate your choices. Decide what you want and then arrange your life to support that decision. And this might mean uncomfortable conversations, unconventional arrangements, or standing firm against other people's expectations for how they want you to show up or do something. And I want you to do you anyways. Number 4, redirect your energy towards creation, not analyzing. The human brain wants to ruminate after heartbreak. It wants to replay scenarios and analyze what went wrong and imagine alternate endings, right? But that energy is way, way better spent creating your future than dissecting your past. And something you can do is ask yourself, what would the version of me who's completely over my ex do right now? And then do that thing, even if it feels foreign at first. And number 5, use your heartbreak as motivation, not as an identity. Your breakup is something that happened for you and not to you, right? But it doesn't mean that that's who you are. Don't let it become your defining story. And instead, let it be the catalyst that pushed you to discover strengths, desires, possibilities you might never have uncovered otherwise. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, time has nothing to do with healing your heartbreak. Some people feel devastated for years after a breakup, while others transform their lives within months. And the difference isn't time, it is a mindset. It's mindset. Healing happens when you choose to decide that it will, not when you wait passively for pain to subside, but when you actively choose thoughts that serve your future rather than anchor you in your past. The quality of your thoughts determine the quality of your healing, and the quality of your healing determines the quality of your life after your heartbreak. Always, always, always. If you do not like the quality of your current reality, take a look at the quality of thoughts that you have, and there will be a direct correlation. Looking at Ariana now, she's amazing. I love her. Radiant, successful, genuinely happy. It's almost impossible to believe that she went through such a public and painful betrayal. And that transformation wasn't random luck, my friends. It was the direct result of specific choices that she made about how she would think about what happened, what she would focus her energy on, what she would and would not tolerate, and how she would use pain as power. And here's the incredible truth. You, my brave heart, have access to those exact same choices. And your heartbreak might not be playing out on national television, but the pain is just as real, and your potential for transformation is just as powerful. And you don't have to wait for time to heal you. You don't have to hope that someday you'll feel better. You can decide right now that your breakup will become the launching pad for the life you've always wanted, a life that's bigger and better and more authentically yours than the one that you had with your ex. And that decision, my friends, is available to you in this very moment. And the only question is, will you take it? And today, I hope Ariana's story inspires you to see what's possible when you use heartbreak as fuel instead of an anchor. Because I truly believe that the best revenge isn't just living your bigger and better life. That's huge, and I love that. But it's also becoming so completely yourself that your ex becomes irrelevant to your happiness, right? And that, my beautiful brave hearts, it's the ultimate glow up. I say your bigger and better life is your ultimate glow up, okay? But until next time, remember, your pain can become your power, your heartbreak can become your happy, and your ending can become the most beautiful beginning you never could have imagined. I love you so much. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will talk to you next time. If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.